Hello Year 9, welcome to your English lesson on Tuesday the 5th of May. Can't believe it's May already, that's just crazy. I really hope you enjoyed the concluding part of A Telltale Heart last video lesson, and you took the opportunity to watch some of the animation that I posted on Show My Homework afterwards. If you did, you will know that this was an excellent example of intertextuality on The Simpsons, where Lisa is in a way kind of doing the same thing as the narrator in A Telltale Heart, except she actually doesn't murder anyone, so quite a big difference there. So today I'm going to go through the answers to the questions that I got from many of you. So well done, you know who you are. Thank you very much for your responses. So I looked through all of them. Clearly, you know, you've done very well, and I'm really impressed with your responses, and hopefully today's lesson will help you self-assess. So let's just start by saying the things I think you need for this lesson are your answers, the ones that you sent to me, and if you haven't sent them to me, then you need to still get them out in front of you and you can submit them to me today. And also you will find on Show My Homework a self-assessment sheet that's for one of the questions, so you'll need that as well. So if you haven't got that in front of you right now, go pause the video, go and get them now. Okay, hopefully all of you have got everything you need in front of you, and I'm going to go through and give you some feedback on some of the ones that I received. So let's start with the comprehension questions. These were the questions. How does the narrator describe his own personality? And I think you all got this right. He claims he has a nervous disposition. He is nervous. So if you've got something along the lines of that, big tick, you get 1 mark. Okay, number 2. What impossible claims does the narrator make about his ability? I think almost all of you got this right. But he can hear all sounds on earth. He can hear most sound in heaven and hell. So he's obviously got some supernatural, ability there. Number 3. Which 2 adjectives does the narrator use to prove that he is not mad in the first paragraph? So this is what he tells us. He says he is calm and sensible. So those are the 2 adjectives. So if you've got both of them, you get 2 marks. If you only got one of them, you get 1 mark. Okay, number 4. Why does the narrator decide to murder the old man? You all got this right. He wants to rid himself forever of the vulture eye. Now, you all said it in your own way. As long as you're saying the same thing in your own words, you get the mark. Okay, so well done. Right, so well done to all of these people here. You were all the people who handed in work to me for this task, and you can see here that I've got Ella's here, and I thought I would just show you that even though it's not worth a lot of marks, she gave a really detailed response. He describes himself as always being in a nervous disposition and a little mad. His nervousness has made him I can't read that now, hang on. Scarier? I think it's scarier. He has excellent hearing. He also describes his personality as calm and sensible. A really full answer there. Very detailed. You would ensure that you would get full marks for that. So well done. And there's a nice bit of inference in there as well. And for the second question, we've got both answers included. So she gets full marks. Well done, Ella. Again, we've got Lewis here, and we can see that the narrator uses the words calm and sensible to try to prove he isn't mad. A lovely, clear answer, and I like the reasons he's given there as well. So that's a really good full answer. And this one shows a nice bit of inference as well. The narrator murdered the old man because he because of his fake eye was like a vulture's, and that really annoyed him. Yes, so absolutely right. And that last little bit there about how it made him feel is the inference and the sort of deeper understanding that Lewis brings to this answer. So well done. So this is the point where you have to give yourself marks. Did you get 6 out of 6 for that section? Are you feeling like this? Yes, the silliness is back, I'm afraid. Or are you feeling a bit like this? If you are, do not worry. We've got plenty more to go through, and I'm going to help you understand how you can improve. Okay, so we come to the question on inference. Obviously, when you're doing comprehension, inference comes into it a lot of the time, especially if you are giving a full answer. You don't just rely on the facts, you often give that extra bit of information. But this particular question really tested your inference skills. So here is the question. Find 2 pieces of evidence which suggest that the narrator is mad. Explain how your evidence shows this. So I gave you 4 possible marks for this question. So these are the possible answers. He asks us why you say that I am mad, or how can I possibly be mad? He decided to kill the old man just because of his eye. He decided to kill the old man even though he loved him. He thinks we would have laughed to see him creeping into the room. So you need to have 4 full answers similar to this. You need to have 2 full answers similar to this. You need to, obviously, 2 of those would be enough to get your 4 marks, but you do have to have the evidence, and then you do have to have your explanation, which we know is your inference. So let's have a look. Are you still feeling like this? Hopefully. Oh, you're just like that right now. Yeah, it's okay. It's fine. Okay, let's go through analysis. So this is where at GCSE level you get most of your marks. Okay. So here are the answers. That wasn't supposed to come up first. Just ignore that. Okay, number 6 asked you, find an example of when the narrator talks directly to us, the reader. What effect does this have? Okay, so you can see up here, so you should have your sheet with you, so you're ready to mark. 1 mark for evidence and 1 mark for explanation. So you can see there are some bullet points here with some possible answers. So listen to my story and you'll see that's one example of where he's talking directly to us. I can't understand why you say that I'm mad. You may well think I'm mad. You would have laughed to see how cunningly I did this. You see what I mean? Okay, so it could have been any of those examples. And then I was looking for an explanation that goes with it to show that this means that he is crazy. Okay. And number 7, how does the narrator describe the eye? Explain the effect this has on the reader. Now, I think I was a bit mean there, only giving 2 marks for this, because actually, I don't think it's as easy as it looks, this question. But you certainly gave it a good shot, and I've got some really good answers to this one. So, along the lines of, it is pale blue, it has a milky film, it's like a vulture's eye, it makes us feel uncomfortable, it is an unpleasant, horrific, horrible image, it makes us realise the old man is blind. So any answers similar to that, you would get 2 marks. So let's just have a look what some of you have done. And this one is Mia's. Let's have a look. Mia, you get 2 marks for number 6 because you've made us think about the impact on the reader. So you've put, it makes them feel a connection with the narrator as though they can see through his mindset. Yes, and because his mindset is one of a crazy person, it's actually quite horrific, isn't it? And for number 7, we've got like a vulture's pale and blue, the milky film. So we've got the evidence there, we've got the quotation. It creates imagery the reader can perceive the eye as that of a vulture. Okay, so we're in the position of the reader again, and although that is a decent response, actually I think you could be even more detailed with that for number 7. I would probably only give that 1 mark, and I would give something like this 2 marks. So this is Harriet. He describes the eye as being milky and pale blue like a vulture's. This has the effect that an animal staring at you might have. It's unsettling, and it's that extra little bit. So we've got that comparison to an animal, but we've also got this thing that it's unsettling. So we have this ultimate effect that it's having on the reader. It's unsettling, and because of that extra little bit of analysis, of explanation, we would get the full marks for that. So well done, Harriet. Lara, we've got this. One of his eyes was like a vulture's, pale and blue with a milky film over it. This makes us think that the narrator is crazy for hating a fake eye. Okay. I've got a feeling actually that one was Kira's, but I will double check that in a minute. Okay, so this is taking a different viewpoint here, and it's focusing on what we think of the narrator rather than what we think of the eye, which is valid, completely valid. And in some respects, I feel, yes, it is Kira's, sorry. I thought it was, I remembered looking at it, Kira, sorry. And in some respects, actually, a mixture of both Harriet and Kira's answer would be the ultimate answer. But of course, I was a bit mean and I only gave 2 marks. So if I was giving 4 marks for that, I think, you know, both of those answers would be really good. One where we're focusing on what it makes us think of the narrator, and one of what it's making us think about and the effect of the language that Poe has used to describe the eye. I think both of those are valid. So well done to you two. Okay, so hang in there. I know going through and marking your responses is not as easy as it sounds. So stay with me. We're going to go on to the next section now, and hopefully you'll get a little bit more of an idea of where you're at on the reading scale. Okay, so this is where you're going to need this self-assessment sheet. Now, this is something that we would use in school to mark a piece of analysis or reading comprehension or inference or something like that, where you were writing, you know, maybe a couple of paragraphs on a response, on an extract maybe. This is something we would use for English language, not English literature. And it's really looking at your reading skills. And so I've adapted it because normally it would be out of 60 marks. But obviously for this particular question, we're looking at just 6 marks for this one question. Now, this is not too dissimilar to the kind of questions you get in a GCSE exam. So on paper 1, you are given an extract, and you're given a question very similar to this, but it's out of 8 marks. And you have to write quite a lot and be very, very detailed in a very short space of time. And it's only for 8 marks. So it's a real skill. So we're really practicing here some crucial sort of exam skills that you need for next year. And this sheet, you don't have to print it out. If you've got it printed out, great. But if not, then just having it on the screen is enough. It takes you through where you would get each mark, basically. So to get 6 marks, you'd want to be right at the top. Now, I've highlighted the inference and analysis points only because some of them are for summarising and some of them are for comparing, which are some of the skills you have to do at GCSE. But for this particular question, it really is just asking you for analysis. And of course, when you're doing analysis, you're often doing inference and comprehension at the same time. So I've highlighted those 2 bullet points on each one. And now your task, and I know it's not that easy, so just give it a go. Okay, it's the learning in this is you learning about how you get the marks. The ultimate point here is not for you to get it completely right. Okay, so this is really just an opportunity for you to learn a little bit more about how you can improve your work. So the question asks, how does the writer create an atmosphere of horror and tension? And then you've given some bullet points, and even in the GCSE exam, you're given some bullet points to help you. The personality of the narrator, his motives for killing the old man, how he tries to convince us of his cleverness, any important words or phrases. And every question would always add with that. And, at the end, any important words or phrases. It's just kind of, chucked on the end there for you. And so with this sheet, you can see, hopefully, where you might get the marks. So I'm going to show you some examples of ones. And I haven't marked them beforehand, so I'm going to do this live with you now. I'm going to have a look and I'm going to talk you through where I would put them on the scale. Okay. So let's start with Oliver's. Thank you, Oliver, for your contribution here. Okay, he makes us think that it's a horror novel by making this character come across as a madman wanting to murder somebody, by making the character say things that are impossible, and the way he talks about the old man when he looks to murder him becomes across as a complete madman. Okay, so what I get from that is that his motivation for wanting to murder makes him seem mad. The things that he says, they are actually impossible. Like he can hear things in heaven and hell, so, it makes him mad. And all of these things make him seem mad. Now, and I assume what you mean by that, because you haven't actually written this on the end, so it might have been an idea to do this, is that this idea of madness, it can be quite frightening or unsettling for the reader. I'm assuming that's what you meant. However, you haven't actually written that. So as a first point, I would suggest that you make sure that whatever's in your head, don't assume that the examiner or the teacher, i.e. me, knows where you're going with it. Okay, so just be really, really clear and write that down at the end. Okay, so where would I put it on this scale? I have to look because I haven't got my glasses on. Let me have a look. You see, I would say I can respond in a straightforward way to most explicit information and viewpoints. I can make some relevant comments about language and structure. I would probably give that a 2, and the reason I'd give it a 2 is because it's just not detailed enough. So you've told me that the writer makes him seem crazy by the things he says, but you haven't told me what those things he says are and how they sound crazy. And I think if you had done that, you'd be right up here. Because I think I know where you were going with it, but you just didn't go into the detail of it. So by telling me, things that he says make him seem mad, well, what are those things that he says? And how do they make him seem mad? There you go. There's your full answer. But really good try, Oliver. Thank you very much. Okay, this is Leo's. The writer creates the atmosphere of horror and tension by telling us the personality of the narrator. Slowly we begin to realise the narrator is mad, and this uneased me as I knew he was capable of anything. Also, the fact that I found out he would kill the old man he loved because of a deformed feature shocked me, and tension built up in my body as I really wanted to know how he would kill the man and if he would stick to what he had said he would do. Because he tries to convince us of his cleverness, it sends a shiver down my spine, and this is because I believe the man thinks what he's doing is clever and he's almost proud of himself for coming up with his plan to kill the old man. Now, this is a lovely detailed response. What I like about it is that, Leo, you've gone through all the main parts that do make it seem really horrific, and you have explained yourself. You've been quite detailed. You've done what I think Oliver assumed but didn't write down. You've actually written down, and that's really good. So one tip I would say for you is that moving forward and looking towards your GCSEs, move away from responding with I. Although there's nothing massively wrong with doing that. But to make it sound a little bit more professional in terms of the way you are analysing, talk about the reader rather than I. So that's just a quick tip I can give you for next time when you're doing it. So what would I give you here? Now, what I do like is the detail, but actually, in order to get up here, I can analyse and evaluate language, grammar and structure. You haven't really picked out any actual evidence and then analysed the words and phrases. Let's look at the one down here. I can analyse and evaluate relevant aspects of language, grammar and structure. Not quite, but I do think that here, where you're responding to text, making valid responses to explicit and implicit meanings and viewpoints, I think you are doing that. So I probably would... I just noticed something. Have you noticed that there are 2 5s? Crikey, I am tired. What am I doing? Let's say that that's 4.5. That's 5. Oh, honestly, I don't know what's going on. I know I'm an English teacher, but can count to 6 normally. So yeah, I apologise about that. I shall change that before I upload it to show my homework, but I would put it in this bracket, which would be a 4.5, okay, a new level I've just created. I would do that because I think in order to get up to a 5, I think you do need to pick out words and phrases and discuss the connotations or subtle meanings, read between the lines, and you know what they sort of what mood they create and the imagery, what effect it creates and stuff like that. So I think I would give it a 4.5 because I'm being a little bit harsh today. But well done, Leo, a really good response. Okay, we've got Lisa's response here. Let's have a look. The writer creates an atmosphere of horror and tension by making the narrator mad. His personality is very cunning in a disturbing way, e.g. the way he watches the man sleep and hides his body so carefully. The narrator's motives are not reasonable either. The old man is good. The narrator even mentions that he loves the man and he has never done anything wrong towards the narrator, but because of a single eye that he was not very fond of, he thought that the best option was to kill him and to get rid of him completely. Also, the narrator's way of convincing are giving the reader the opposite effect. He tries to prove that he is not mad so much that he goes into detail about his cleverness and how wise he was, although it was not wise in any way. It actually proves he is mad, and he found enjoyment in telling the story in a way to show how cunning he was, in a way he believed a madman would not. Some examples are, and we've got the examples here of where he shows himself to be mad. I think that this is fantastic. Lisa, thank you so much. It is so detailed, and I really like the way that you are picking out these examples and giving lots and lots of detail. I would say that would get a 6 out of 6. And in an ideal world, what you would do is you would take these examples and you would embed them in here, in the middle of where you are giving your analysis. So we can see the example and then we can see your analysis straight afterwards, and that would be the ideal way of doing it. However, I can see that it has all the elements that are necessary for a 6 out of 6. So well done, brilliant response. Mia Grace, I am going to give you this little image here of me being blown away because I absolutely loved the detail in your analysis. It goes without saying this would be a 6 out of 6. The writer creates an atmosphere of horror and tension by initiating the story in second person. It makes the audience feel as though a nervous madman is connecting with them, leaving them uncomforted. By claiming to have no anger or hidden motive towards the murder, just the fact he despised the old man's eye confirms the idea of madness and leaves the reader at unease. The horror of it all comes together when the narrator convinces himself against the idea of insanity and has his mind set on his actions being clever. You would have laughed to see how cunningly I did this. Tension is built as his movements become more precise and carefully evaluated, ever so gently because the hinges creaked. By incorporating a deformity, the vulture eye also links to Victorian fears and ideas of horror. Loved it. And one of the things that I really like about this is how at the end you have connected your knowledge of context. So one way of moving you forward, Mia, even though this is a 6 out of 6, but forget that. What I was thinking is at the end there, where you talk about the Victorian fears and ideas of horror, what would be great is if we actually saw the connection to particular elements of fears and ideas of horror. So where did those fears come from and how does this connect? So some concrete examples there. And you've got yourself the absolute perfect answer. So well done. Awesome job. Blew me away. Okay, so we've got here, what is the significance of the title of the story, The Telltale Heart? Now this is that sort of reading question where actually there isn't one specific answer. There could be a number of answers here, and if you can back up your reasons why, even if it's not the answer I would give, you would still get the marks. So let's have a look at Mason's first of all. Mason has said it refers to the beating heart that eventually drives the narrator to confess his crime, and I think a lot of you all got that idea and understood that inference that actually it was the guilt. And here we've got Sydney, and Sydney said the title of the story, Telltale Heart, means he couldn't live with the guilt of killing the old man, so his heart beat, I can't read that bit, sorry, because it's too small for me, and made the man own up to his mistakes. Yes, very good. And Daniel, you've also put that the heart will feel guilt for what he's done and will always make you confess. So a warning out there for anyone who is thinking of doing something similar to the narrator. I hope not. But yes, so the guilt was eating away. So well done to all of you. If you got the same answer and it's similar to that, you would get your 4 marks too. Well done. Okay, and number 10 was the 2 main symbols in the story are the eye and the heart. What do these symbols represent? Why are they important? And this was an analysis question, and it was in red because I felt it was a slightly more challenging question to answer, because you had to really think outside the box and consider what eyes and hearts represent. What are the connotations? What do we think of when we think of an eye and we think of a heart? And then from that you then had to connect it to the story and the narrator and the plot. So there's quite a lot of different types of thinking going on with this question, and for some students they can find that quite tricky. So Mason, you've put for this one that both the eye and the heart represent his feelings, but I feel at that point you kind of stopped and didn't give me any more. So I'm afraid you wouldn't get the marks for that question. But let's have a look at Sydney's. The reader hesitate and the man's heart. What? I can't read that one, sorry. I really need my glasses on. Let me just go over here, have a look at it here. The man's heartbeat after he murdered him. In reality, it could be the clock counting down the seconds until the police come and inspect, and the narrator owns up to the murder he committed. Very true. I love that connection there with the clock ticking. It's all these sounds, isn't it, in this story? The heart beating, the clock ticking, this regular rhythm, right, as if it's waiting for something to happen. I love that. So well done. That's really good, Sydney. I like that one. And Daniel, the 2 main symbols of the story are the eye and the heart, and they represent, what do they represent? Think that the eye is the beacon of fear and the heart of, I cut you off there. Don't know what I was thinking there, sorry about that. But I did like those responses, so well done. What I liked was the beacon of fear. What a beautifully worded phrase there. Really love that, Daniel. Well done. Really, really good. Okay, and these two are my superstars for these questions. So we've got Aaron here. The heart not only represents the heart of the old man, but the love the narrator had. How he loved the man, and although he tried to stop the old man's heart from beating, he stopped his own and became a dark, cruel man. Although the man died, his beating heart, although he was dead, show he still loved the narrator even beyond death. What I love, Aaron, about this is the fact that you've taken this idea and you've done exactly what I hoped, which is think outside the box and make those connections. I honestly can tell you, in all the years I have read this, I have never thought of the beating heart in the same way. I've never thought of it representing a continued love at the end. That's brilliant. I absolutely love that. And I love this connection that, you know, the love represents the love he has for the man, even though he wants to make the man's heart stop beating. I think it's fantastic. So well done to you, Aaron. An awesome response there. You would get 6 out of 6 for that. Leo, as we know, the heart at the end of the story was still beating, which made the narrator go insane. And in the end, he told the police where the man's corpse was. In a way, the heart made it impossible for the narrator to keep his murder secret, and you could say almost hold on the narrator. And I think this is why the title is called The Telltale Heart. Yes, it's absolutely right, Leo. Well done. That heart was the giveaway, wasn't it? So well done there. The eye to me symbolises the part of the narrator's identity that he refuses to accept or confront. I believe the heart symbolises the narrator's guilt. I'd be really interested in that first part of that. The eye symbolises the part of the narrator's identity that he refuses to accept or confront. Yes, tell me more, Leo. What do you mean? What do you think it symbolises? I'm intrigued. I need to know more. After the murder, he hears what he thinks is the old man's heart beating. However, I believe what he heard was his own heart beating, and I believe it got louder and louder because of the build-up of guilt and panic he felt, and the fact the police remained in the house and made it impossible for him to relax, causing his heart rate to increase. We know this became too much, and in the end, it was his heart that made him show the police the old man's corpse. Absolutely right. Well done. Both of you, you are superstars. You answered that question really, really well. 2 very different answers, but 2 equal of praise and 6 marks out of 6 marks. So well done. Okay, we are nearly there, people. Okay, stay with me. Okay, let's carry on. Okay, so we get to 11. What sound does the narrator hear after the murder? In reality, what could it be? Why does it get louder and louder? We just had that. We know it's the heartbeat. In reality, what could it be? It could be his guilt. It could be, you know, his heart beating. Any of those things. Okay, so we've had the response for that. So 2 marks there. And then we had this focus passage, and I think you all did really well with this, and you were able to differentiate between the visual images and the sound images here. And just in case you needed to check your answers, you needed to have 3 visual images, and I've highlighted 3, more than 3 here, but any of these 3 you would get marks from. And then the sound images are in blue, and again you only need 3, but there are more than 3 here, so just make sure you've got the same. You do have to have 3 of each to get 3 marks. There are no half marks with this one, so you have to have them all, and then you get the full 3 marks. Right, here we are at the finish line. Now, let me go back to that. Sorry. Now, hopefully you found this lesson helpful in terms of being able to self-assess yourself, and give you a bit of feedback about how you can improve analysis and inference. One bit of advice I can give you is, if you think you've analysed enough, you probably haven't. There's probably more you can say. And examiners love to see the depth and detail in your responses. So zooming in on words and phrases and looking at what they could mean. Remember, take it back to the beginning, take it back to the positive and the negative to start with. And then once you've decided if it's positive or negative, then explore, how is it positive? How is it negative? Which words show this? What impact does that make on the reader? And don't forget Mia putting in there her understanding of context really added an extra layer of excellence to her answer. So well done. And that's something that all of you can do as well. So this lesson is really about you being able to look at your answers, see where you are on that scale, where I haven't added it up correctly. And just change that first 5 to a 4.5 for me, won't you? And then next Show My Homework lesson, I will be uploading a multiple choice quiz on all of these different reading skills. And this is a key piece of work where I want to see everybody's response in the whole year group. And you will then get some feedback through Show My Homework on how well you've done on the different sections. Okay, it will be on something that you haven't read before, so it'll be a really useful key assessment point for us to see where you're at with your reading skills. But don't forget, there's loads of other Gothic horror novels out there for you to read, so get exploring. I shall put some extracts of different Gothic horror novels on Show My Homework for you, so that you can have a dip in and out and see which stories interest you and that you might like to read. And after we've done our quiz and you've had your feedback, we shall move on to something new, and I shall leave that as a little surprise for next lesson. So well done, thank you for watching, and if you would like to, you can tell me what score you got, and I will see you next lesson. Thanks very much. Bye.